All right, grade twos, it's the time you've all been waiting for. It's time to see the results of our experiment. So, our 2 containers of water have been sitting for a full week. We have our container with the plastic wrap covering it and our container without the plastic wrap covering it. Now you might already be able to see just by looking at this container that definitely we've had some water evaporate from the uncovered container. And it's a little bit harder to tell whether we have from this one or not when it's perfectly flat. It's hard to see if the water is below that green line. But luckily I have this very useful device, which is called a graduated cylinder, that's going to help me really accurately measure how much water is in each container. Now, if you'll remember, we put 250 milliliters of water in each container. My graduated cylinder only goes to 100 milliliters, so we're going to have to do some adding. So I'm going to pour all of my water back into the measuring cup. And then from here, I'm going to pour it into my graduated cylinder. So this is from the uncovered container. Okay. So there's 100 milliliters of water. So I grabbed a whiteboard and some markers to help us keep track of how much water. So far in our uncovered container, we have 100 milliliters of water. So I'm going to pour the rest of the water into the graduated cylinder. And we've got about 80 milliliters in there. So we had 100 milliliters plus 80 milliliters. So I'm going to need your help to figure out how much water in total was in that container. So now we'll do the same thing for our covered container. Pour this back in. I'm going to pour all the water into our measuring cup. We'll see if any of the water evaporated. Some people thought some water would, and some people thought that no water would from the covered one. So we'll test it and see. Okay. So there's our first cont 100 milliliters. Pour that back into the container. There's another 100 milliliters. Maybe no water's evaporated. We'll have to see. And the last little bit. It's exactly the same, 250. Now, I've started to make a chart, a graph, to show our experiment. So I have it here. It says Evaporation Experiment at the top because that's the title. And I have last week's results. So I put water along the side, how many milliliters of water are in each container, and the date along the bottom, because those are the days that we're testing. So here's last week, April 8th. Both of our containers had 250 milliliters of water in them. Now I need to make some new bars for the 15th, which is today, so I need your help to figure out how high I should make those bars, how many milliliters of water are in each of the containers. That means that you have 2 jobs this week. Number 1, I want you to tell me how many milliliters of water were in each of those containers, and I'll write out the equations so you can see them. Now I know that these are a little bit tricky because the numbers are big, but I think you can do it. And then the second thing I'd like you to do is I would like you to guess how many milliliters of water will be in each of the containers, the covered and the uncovered container, for next week after they've been sitting for another week.